go.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank y'all for taking the time to come out and join us. Especially want to thank y'all for coming on the special election night. I know there's different watch parties going on, and people may want to be home, so I appreciate y'all coming on a busy day like this. First thing I like to do is pray, so if you will, bow your heads with me. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for all the blessings that you give us. Thank you for your birth from a virgin. Thank you for your life, for the cross, for your resurrection, and for your coming return, Lord. Be with us this night and going forward. Help us to unify, Lord, and do what we need to do with whatever the results are tonight. Let your will be done, God, and guide us during this meeting. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Rod, if you will, lead us in the pledge.
You better stand, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next thing, if you are a veteran, would you please stand or raise your hand? We would like to thank you.
Goodness.
Next, I'd like to recognize any elected government officials that we have. I know we have several here. Let's start. Let's go. We have our chairman, Mr. Jensen. Mr. Thomas is here with us, another commissioner. Mr. Robertson, school board members with us, and any other elected officials. Thank y'all for coming tonight. I'd like to recognize our board. Of course, I'm McCray. I'm the chairman. Eddie Caldwell is our past chair. He's not here tonight. Rod Miller is our first vice chair. Diane Putnam's our second vice chair, and also a past chair. She's back there. Renee Baker is our secretary. Lisa Adams is our media secretary. She does the live streaming for us, so I want to thank her for that. James Smith is our treasurer, and Gavin Swafford is our assistant treasurer. If we have any precincts, if y'all can stand or raise your hand, I want to thank y'all too. I know a couple of the board members are, but I just want to make sure we appreciate our precinct chairs, so thank y'all that are. I want to go over very briefly some local ballot questions that we're going to be having on the May 19th ballot, and I want to just briefly read these off. The first one is, should the Joseph E. Johnston statue be restored to its original and public historic location at the intersection of Crawford Street and South Hamilton Street in Dalton? Number two, should the Georgia General Assembly pass a constitutional amendment to abolish property taxes? Number three, do you support requiring paper ballots with full public hand counts at the precinct on election night for election day ballots and full public hand counts by precinct for absentee and advanced in-person ballots? Number four, do you oppose granting broad immunity to corporations for PFAS contamination and support holding manufacturers, suppliers, and polluters fully accountable for cleanup and damages? And the fifth one, should local communities have greater authority to limit high-density development in rural areas? So I just wanted to share those. We have submitted those, and these 5 will be on the local ballot. I know the state party is also going to do some questions, so as we get close to that, I will make clear exactly which number on the ballot when it comes, but those are the questions we'll be submitting. And we of course encourage a yes vote on all those. I'm going to pass this session, so that's a great temporary victory, and I'm happy for that. Another thing, though, to be watching out for is Senate Bill 577. So we defend against one thing, and then another one comes, from the plate. So anyway, SB 577. Chuck Payne is a sponsor for that. So we're going to keep an eye on that. And what that one does, that prevents local towns and governments from suing. Instead of the individual, it prevents the local government. So it's a little different but similar. So we'll watch out for that. If you want to join our Legislative Watch Committee to watch for that bill and other bills, let me know. Next order of business, I want to give a few minutes to people that are running for office. I know our state Senate candidates are going to speak at the end. So if you're running for a local office, if you will, just raise your hand. You're welcome to have a couple minutes. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go.
Come on up, Dawson.
Yeah, I'll go right here. Hey everyone, if we haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is James Dawson Harper, and I'm running for the at-large district for the Whitfield County Board of Education. I'm a Christian, a veteran, and an engineer. While I have no formal experience in education, My roles have given me experience in fighting for my fellow citizens, problem solving, keeping costs low, and doing more with less. This is the very leadership we need in this county right now. Over the last year, we have seen unnecessary property tax increases. The complaints from our taxpayers seem to fall on deaf ears, however, as more are likely to come this year as well. I hate seeing this arrogant lack of respect towards our taxpayers. And under my leadership, I'll be accountable to you, not the administrators who constantly ask for more. I will not take you for granted and have you foot the bill for the county's needless, irresponsible spending. The needs of our teachers are also not being met. The opinions and insights of those in the trenches who see what our students need in order to be successful are routinely disregarded. We have teachers teaching curriculums that they didn't vouch for, that leave gaps in the children's knowledge, and then they have to cover down with their own resources to make up for it. This is completely unacceptable. Under my leadership, the teachers will be heard and respected. We owe it to our students to employ what the teachers need so that they can be taught correctly. Beyond all this, though, is something greater and more existential. Around the country, we see a tightening grip that woke and Marxist ideology has on the classroom. This isn't surprising, since this is the playbook of the left. Their ideas can't hold up to scrutiny, so they have to resort to indoctrination to garner support. Maoist China is a clear example of this. In Maoist China, the Cultural Revolution aimed to tear down the pillars of traditional Chinese society by driving an ideological wedge between the youth and the older generations. How was this achieved? Through the dissemination of bad ideas in the classroom. Our children trust in us to show them the way, and this pitiful tactic takes advantage of that innocence and trust to tear down this nation from within. I believe in truth. We empower truth by teaching our youth how to think, not what to think. You have my word that I will stand firm against any attempt to inject this into our school system, and I will root out any that is already there. If these issues are something you feel as passionate about as I do, I please ask for your support on May 19th. I am student first, teacher first, taxpayer first, Whitfield first, and America first. I will always fight for you. Now, I'm also a representative for the Christian Herd for Georgia campaign. He's running against the incumbent Steve Tarvin in District 2. Many of you probably already know him. He's come here and spoken many times. He was originally running for the federal seat, but he saw that accountable leadership was lacking really close to home. So he pivoted and is running against Steve Tarvin. His opponent, Steve, is funded by Casey Carpenter and corporate interests. He's a byproduct of the establishment GOP good old boy system. He has taken money from liquor and gambling lobbies for his support on legislation that will benefit those industries at the expense of Georgians. If it wasn't any more clear where his loyalties lie, he could be a bit snappy when asked to explain himself to his voters. I guess he doesn't feel the need to be accountable to the voter when he's already accountable to his corporate backers. One of the biggest being the carpet industry, since he's one of the biggest proponents of HB 211, which thankfully we just stopped at in its tracks for now. Christian Herd is the exact opposite. He's a young Marine with a go-getter attitude who's constantly out in the community. He wants to engage with his constituents because that is who he answers to and no one else. Christian Herd is the accountable leadership the people of District 2 deserve. So I please implore you to vote for Christian Herd on May 19th during the Republican primary as well. So that's my spiel. If you have any questions, I'm free to answer them at the end. I'll be around, but in lieu of time, I'll go ahead and let the other candidates speak. So thanks so much. I'm James Austin Harper again, running for school board.
Okay, who would like to take a few minutes next? One of our local candidates. Come on up.
I'll be real brief. My name's Anthony Halsey. I'm running for District 3 Commissioner of Whitfield County. I've lived in the district for the past 28 years. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, so we've been together since 1987. So I don't know how she put up with me this long, or I put up with her or whatever. Anyway, I guess she was a teacher, and I was in retail at the time, and we just never hardly saw each other. So I guess that's about it. But anyway, long story short, I served in the Army Reserves. I joined in '91. Another thing, I don't know why she kept me around, but I let her know that was at the start of Desert Shield, and I let her know while we was on her birthday dinner that I joined. Of course, you know how that happened. But anyway, So she supported me all through that, and I'm not gonna. I believe that politicians, they need to actually work for the people that put them in office. Yeah, you're not gonna make everybody happy. You're gonna always have somebody that gets ticked off at you, and you know that's just where you gotta find that happy medium and do what's best for the citizens in the county. You just gotta figure out how to balance that. But in the end, it's the citizens that put you in office to represent them. So that's who you need to look at. Like I said, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet, and I appreciate the voters for support. I'm not gonna belittle. I'm running against John Thomas. He's a good guy. I'm not one of those that's gonna badger or belittle my opponent.
Mr. Thomas, you want a few minutes?
Is Mr. Anderson here?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it's been a pleasure to serve District 3 for the past 5 years. Started my political career in 2007, Whitfield County Board of Education. We reduced the millage rate every year. We've done the same thing since I've been commissioner. I'm proudest for my children and my wife. My wife and I have been married 42 years this year. We have 4 kids, 3 bulldogs, and then my oldest son lives here in Dalton. But anyway, I look forward to serving y'all for 4 more years. And, you know, I'm always here. I know anytime you want to call me, I'm all about transparency. Sometimes we may disagree. That's part of it, but we can be civil about it. I also like to see the young people running for the Board of Education. We need a lot more people, younger and older, but especially the younger, to combat just what he said. It's socialism now that we're fighting against. So we need to pull it together and let's get this country headed in the right direction again. Thank you.
What other local candidate would like to go next? Go ahead.
My name's Philip King, and I'm running for commissioner for District 1 on the southeast end of Whitfield County. I'm a lifelong resident, still live on the south end. I'm Christian, conservative. I've taught at Southeast High School now for 18 or 19 years. I teach economics, and I have a few cattle with my father. I think I've gotten the chance to meet most of you. If there's anybody I haven't met, I'd love to talk to you and kind of tell you what I'm about. I've been working hard. I know my opponent has as well, talking to people in local government and people around the community. And the things I'm focused on when I'm running for this position, and if I'm blessed enough with your vote to get on the Board of Commissioners, is I'd like to keep trying to protect our residents and our small business owners from property tax increases. And I think there's some room to do that. Okay, the budget, we all know budgets are tight. There's concerns about health care and other rising costs, but I think there's still some room there, and I'll be more specific on that as we have time allows, as time goes on. I'd also like to make sure when we do assemble the budget, right, we make sure our priorities are public safety, right? I feel that's the main job of local government is first responders. We have to make sure we put first responders first. There's some concerns that as the county grows, that there's some needed positions in the sheriff's office and the fire department. And we can't, obviously we can't add all those the first year, but I do think that we can make progress towards that. The last 2 things are connected, and that's rezoning, which has been a big topic, not just in Whitfield County, but in a lot of local governments. And like I stated here before, I want people to know that those issues are tough, and sometimes you make people mad on either side. But when the room fills up with people, and they're on one side of an issue, I'm going to be a delegate for the voters that sent me there, and I'm going to listen to the voters, and to me that's going to be the easy decisions. And I just want people to know that. I believe in transparency. I want to be approachable. I want to let people know the information that I have when I get it, as I'm able to, and that's the reputation that I hope to have on the Board of Commissioners if I'm lucky enough to receive your vote. I'm Philip King, and I'd love to meet with any of you that I haven't been able to meet with, and I appreciate the chance to speak tonight. Thank the local Republican Party for that.
Hey, I'm Mike Kinsey. I think I've met most of you this year. through this Republican Party on a monthly basis. Rather than sit here and tell you who I am, 'cause I think we all know that I'm running for District 1, let's talk about some things that I've learned in the last couple of months while out politicking, if you will, meeting people in the community. I've ran 5 businesses successfully for the last 25 years, still operating 3 of them now. And I know what it takes for small business people to be able to compete and to succeed in our county. Part of that's the tax situation that we've all been talking about here. The commissioners have rolled back the millage rate some, but I feel like there's more room there. But we've got other issues. How many people here got 3 tax bills last year? You got 2 for 24? You got 2 for 24? You got 1 for 25. We're the laughing stock of the state. I've talked to people all over the state. I know them from Valdosta to Brunswick, all the way up here. It's a joke. Our tax assessor's office is a joke. And everybody I've talked to is trying to figure out how we got there. I can explain it to them. It's going to take more than the 5 minutes that I got up here. We got to get in there. We got to make some changes. They're not going to be pleasant. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I'm here to make those changes. I'm here to try to help make those changes. Everybody I've talked to has been affected by it. Every time I turn around, that's the first thing they want to talk about. What happened with our property taxes? And I tell them, I can lay it out starting in 2015 and walk them all the way through it. I'll be glad to talk to you about it. We can make changes. We can do better. And that's my little tagline I've seen on any of my social media stuff. If you want to be better, you got to do better. I'm promising you I will do better. I would appreciate your support, District 1. And I hope everybody got out and voted today. And I hope you get out and vote on May 19th. Thank y'all.
I think that's all the commissioner candidates. I know we've got 2 school board candidates. Which one of y'all want to go first?
Where's your big camera?
My tripod, I think it's at home.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Karen Rowart, and I've been a Whitfield County resident for 72 years. I've been in the education system 50-something years. And the only political stuff I did in 2002. I ran for a House seat, and I got in a runoff. And so then I decided I could do better behind the scenes and stuff. So I've lobbied at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. 3 summers. I met every senator and every congressman. If you just take your time, you can. For teachers' pay is what we were, and qualifications for all the states. I've worked for Whitfield County most of my career, which is over 40-something years now. I've also worked for Dalton City. I was assistant principal at Park Creek, and I've had every teaching position available, I think, in Whitfield County. I did 17 years as a kindergarten teacher, and that's when I went back to get my doctorate, because we needed kindergarten. It wasn't mandated, and then we'd get them in 1st grade and you'd have to start again. And it wasted a lot of taxpayer money and a lot of teachers' time and effort. So once we got that done, my dissertation I took to the state board, and they read it and everything, and so we started campaigning for mandated kindergarten. So I helped get kindergarten years ago mandated in Georgia. And then the vocational schools weren't any, they were great when I went to school. I graduated in 71 from North Whitfield, and they were great, and then we just did away with them. We started putting everybody college bound. And so they had a forum with the governor in Georgia. It was a Democrat governor, but at least they had a forum. So a lot of Republicans were down there talking to him about why we needed vocational ed. And so then I got on the task force committee with the State Department, and we've got a great vocational school now. So maybe some of my lobbying and stuff has helped, I don't know, but I've been at it hard and fast. I even went for Whitfield County to Arlington. Downtown, my school was right there across from the Arlington Cemetery, to see how they taught 92 languages, and we were having trouble teaching 1 extra language. And so I was assistant principal at one of those schools and a gifted teacher 1 year at one of them, just to see how they were operating. And the superintendent said, we have 93 languages now. We've added Southern with Karen. So, you know, but you've got to get in the tracks. And then I got into the national board track, started training teachers, And we got lots of people in Georgia and Whitfield County to get the National Board Certification. I still have it. I've had it. Mine's good through 2030. So, and it's really hard to get. I was my only acclimate, I say, is I was named to the Teacher Hall of Fame. There is one just like baseball, football. Ours is in Kansas, where the first teacher college was. The 5 teachers get sent in per year, accepted, and then they honor you at the state capitol. So that's one thing that I have. But I've been a fighter, a bulldog, you know, everything all my term. And I was a Japanese Fulbright. I saw how they taught school in Japan. And they have to clean up their schools and everything. There's a lot of things that we could learn and we could save money if we would do here. They have all their staff development, not during school time. They have it when we have staff development days. But instead, we're taking and paying for all these subs. But one thing, and I was raised in Whitfield County schools, my kids were in that generation, and now I've got grandkids. And what I'm appalled about is the school report card that anybody can see. We're spending all this taxpayer money, and our school in Whitfield County has got a B+. Do you think that's good enough? I don't. And then the rankings for the best school districts, we're number 59. And districts with the best teacher, we're number 44. In most of our school districts, we should have all kind of diversity here. We're number 48. So, and we only scored in the top 50% based on the proficient. And a B+, that is not acceptable in my eyes at all for our money. And so I really came when one of my former students called and said, please go do this. I was at the taxpayer office when our tax bills came out. There were so many senior citizens there that were crying because they thought they were going to have to sell their homes because they have a set income and they have no way to make up the difference. So they're doing it on payments, but they don't know what's going to happen when this comes about. There's no reason that we're charging 30% of Whitfield County education is coming from that. 30%. There's ways to cut it. If you go and see all the different jobs, I'm for teachers, don't get me wrong, I'm a teacher. I'm teaching in Murray County right now. I'm still in the classroom, I'm still in the field. But there's always lots of ways that we can look. I got several grants. I got $25,000 for Park Creek when I was worked for the city assistant principal. There's grants out there. I probably got thousands and thousands of dollars of grants. I don't see the school systems working for grants like they used to. There's just lots of money that we're not tacking in on. And there's a lot of ways that we could cut costs in numerous ways, and I'll go into that with you later. But the only other thing I wanted to tell you today, I'm very political. I've been to like 12 inaugurations of both parties because I think you need to be involved in politics for your kids and find out and bring stuff back to them and stuff. And the other thing, I'm being the national certified, I work with the school board in DC to failing schools. We have a lot of them, so I could see what they were doing across the nation. And I did workshops with them. When I worked at NASA, I worked with NASA as education specialist for 12 states. And we got free, we would bring teachers and kids in for free training. So there's lots of free programs out there. There's all kind of Bowen, all kind of places that will let kids do interns, but we're not working hard enough to get our kids in some of these things, I think. But research shows that we can do it, and I want our kids to have top-notch everything. So I'm not saying we've got to cut everything. I say there's a different way of spending and cut certain places and put money in certain places to help that report card. There's lots of work that needs to be done. And our poor citizens cannot stand another tax increase. I don't care what it's for. We cannot stand it. It takes 2 of my teacher retirement checks to pay taxes on my properties that I inherited. That's just, most of them's vacant land. Some of them have houses, but not great houses. And it's just amazing the difference in the rates since 2000 and now, what taxpayers are having to do. And our report card used to be better with our school system. I mean, Arlington that I worked with was #1 at the time I worked with them in the whole nation. We could be there. We could be #1 in Georgia, I know. Maybe not the nation, but we could be on up there with some of the Atlanta schools. Maybe not number one, but we could sure be in the top 10, especially with the kind of money that we're spending. We're spending a lot more money. We're educating half the students that we were educating 10 years ago. But our budgets went up over, I don't know the exact amount, but it's way, way more than what it was when we were educating twice as many kids. So something's got to be done somewhere. I believe in the kids. I want them to have the best education. And it's a funny thing that my opponent is one of my kindergarten students. But I got him on the right track because the job he's got, he'll tell you about, he knew what to do. And he was from rural to Hutton. And I've had lots of success stories I'll tell you all about later. But if you just put them out there and you let them see the opportunities, like Whitfield County Kids Club, I did it for like 16 years. It was all free. The parents had to pay, but I mean, it didn't cost the school system any. DFACs paid and everything. And those kids had education in the summer, and they improved their reading scores and everything. And the other thing, we have after-school care. They don't even have that in the schools now. We used to provide that, and now it has to be Boys and Girls Club. So there's a lot of things that we've gone backward on, and there's a lot of things that we've gone forward on, but there's still more things that we can go forward on for a lot cheaper price. And I think as an educator, we need an educator on that board. There's not an educator there. I know where the bottom dollars are going and how they're swinging them through there, and I think I can help. And I'd love your support. I'll go on and on, but I'd love your support. And just
I think we have one more candidate, and I want to say I appreciate y'all's patience. I do think it's important for candidates to introduce themselves, so if we'll have one more come on up, please. And thank y'all.
I'll be brief, I promise. Y'all, my name's Daniel Alt. I'm almost a lifetime resident here in Whitfield County. Lived in Cutta for most of my life. Grew up on a farm. In my professional life, I'm an engineer. I work for a defense contractor, and so I thank my former teacher for setting me on that round. I'm looking forward to running against her for the Board of Education District 2 seat. I'm going to be honest. I don't have any education experience, but what I do have is some experience talking and confronting both the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education, and I think it's been unfortunate sometimes to see that we don't feel like they listen to us, and so all I want to do out of this is I want to be the taxpayers' eyes, their ears, and their mouth on this board to confront them and make sure that our voices are heard, that we're not paying for things we don't need. We're doing right by our taxpayers and our children, and that's what I hope to do. Thank you all much. Daniel, pleasure.
Okay. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our special guest. His name is Arthur Hampton.
Real quick, 1 minute. So real quick on City Council, we should have results here any minute for Zeus. Just want to thank everybody that helped in various ways. I won't mention everybody. Diane was one of the big helpers with the campaign. So the board talked about this last week at our meeting. We're better off that we fought the good fight. We know Dalton is a blue island in a sea of red. It's always an uphill battle for a Republican, although he has a three-way race tonight, so we're hoping for a runoff. But thank everybody for participating and giving Zeus a shot to retain at least one Republican on City Council. I'll let him come up and thank you himself.
Always is good be the last one because I can hear everything you say. So I still not be a politician. So in these 3 weeks or 4 weeks trying to do this, I learn a lot. And one thing I can say, I hear a lot of people talk about increasing taxes and go for low taxes and support and law enforcement. But we have 55% of Latinos here in town, and the city changed. We have to realize that. We have to see it's two communities, large communities, they facing differences. I feel as a leader of the community, I have to start doing something, no matter the city hall is, a lot of people come in and says, there is no for that. When somebody come in like today and talk to me about immigration, I have to answer. I cannot be quiet and leave this go. So I have to be in a position where my people know what we talk about low taxes, what we talk about law, what is a traffic law, how we can educate the community to be part of this number that we need to change the things in our city. And I think this is important. So I'm still learning. I'm not a politician yet. I don't know if I will be, but I will work hard to do that if I do. So God bless you.
Mr. Hampton, please come on and don't feel rushed. I know we're a little behind, but please take your time and show us what you got. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Excellent. Well, my name is Arthur Hampton, and I am the Southeastern Executive Director of the John Birch Society. Now, I know that's a really big title, but it's a nonprofit, so I just wish the pay was as big as the title. And so we are diametrically opposed to communism. Has anybody ever seen this book before? Does anybody think they know what's in it? You know what's in this? Most people think they do, but they don't. So we're the #1 seller of the Communist Manifesto here in America because you have to know your enemy, right? You have to know what you oppose. And so I have it over there. It's for free for a suggested donation. But I want to show this to you because people think they're American. They think they oppose communism. But then when you turn around and look at the stuff they do in D.C. and do the stuff that they do in Columbia, or not Columbia, well, I'm in Georgia, sorry. I was in South Carolina earlier, Atlanta. It's not very American. I mean, we've gone so far left that if Bill Clinton ran today, he would be a conservative. That's how far left we've gone. And so there's a lot of golden calves in here that we need to destroy that people don't even know about. I know we got several people here that, who was a teacher? Who was a teacher? You were a teacher? You must have a good voice. Here is the 10 pillars of communism, okay? Read the first sentence of number 10. Read the first sentence, number 10.
Free education for all children.
Oh, wait, is that the Communist Manifesto? Free education for everybody? Is that, wait, it is the Communist Manifesto. What are we doing? Now, we're apolitical, believe it or not. We just teach American values. We teach communism. We teach different things like that. I'm not saying one thing or the other. I'm just telling you, it's right here. And I handed out to the people running for school board a thing on critical race theory. That comes from critical class theory. Chapter 1 of the Communist Manifesto, you pit the bourgeoisie against the proletariat. Well, they developed critical class theory further in Germany at the Frankfurt School into critical race theory. And then a guy by the name of Dr. Joseph Goebbels picked up on it. You know who he was? He was the minister of propaganda for Adolf Hitler. That don't sound like too good of things that we need to be teaching kids, do we? Well, maybe in a bad light. But that's what we're teaching our children. Chapter 1 of the Communist Manifesto. It's very interesting. I would suggest you read it all so you know what to oppose. Because just in the 20th century alone, communism has killed more people than both world wars combined. Did y'all know that? Yeah. Just in China alone, there was 20 million died in World War II? How many died under Chairman Mao Zedong and the Chinese Communists? 60 to 70 million. 60 to 70 million. That was just Chinese. I think, 20 million Russians died under Stalin?
I want to say it's like 40.
40? Okay. 20 to 40, yeah. Communism is more dangerous than world wars. This is a dangerous ideology, and it's being taught today, not as communism, but as Fabian socialism. And that's what I'm going to go into today. All they did was change the name to something else. Same thing repackaged. They did this with critical race theory. They said, oh, well, we're not teaching critical race theory. We're teaching, what was it, DEI or social emotional learning. It's the same thing repackaged. They did the same thing a few years back with Common Core. Oh, no, this is not Common Core. This is something else. Well, if it looks like a duck, it's a duck. It's the same thing. And they play these games. You know, all this has got a bad rap, so we're going to call it something else and repackage it and push it through. And they do this not just with the schools, but with everything. So how, oh, by the way, McCarthy was right. We already had a communist infiltration there, but they didn't call themselves communists, they called themselves socialist. And this is how they did it, through Fabian socialism. So I'm going to categorize America's enemies into 3 different categories, 3 different groups. So the first group is the overt revolutionaries. These are the ones trying to topple governments, okay? And they're the least dangerous. The second group is the socialist, and the third group is the insiders, the leftist insider elites, okay? Like I said, the first group of overt revolutionaries, now these are the ones that are easy to see, and they're still there. Believe it or not, my wife was at UGA, I'd say, last Monday or Monday before last, and they have a communist party there. And they got Marx's face on posters all over the campus.
What?
Yeah, they do. She sent me a picture. I'll have to look it up, see if I can find it. But they're here, and it's being taught at UGA in Athens. Can you believe that?
No.
Let me see if I can find the picture real quick. I know we're pressed on time, but it's okay. I was a Baptist pastor. You don't put a Baptist pastor in way on time. We can sing 50 verses just as I am. We can do that. Oh, let's see if I can find it. Let's see here. Where was that? Anyway, phone ain't working. But anyway, so it's here. It's there. And so the second group is the one that is the one that I'm going to be talking about the most, and that is the biggest threat, the Fabian socialists. Socialists are, they're not, it's not a rock and roll group. It's a philosophy. And if anybody read the book by Gary Allen, None Dare Call It Conspiracy, or None Dare Call It Treason, it's pretty good books. I'd recommend that. And so we need to delve into how these Fabian socialists have infiltrated the America. So the Fabian socialist movement, toward the end of the century in Europe, there were a number of Marxist parties that got into a philosophical disagreement among themselves, and the main bone of contention was whether you could bring communism to a country where they, through a revolution, or whether it was possible to bring it to a country through the ballot box, through evolution, as you could say. Some people said we had to have violent people, and other people said non-violence. And there are some professor types that were dedicated to Marxism, and they believed in building the socialist state, but this idea of blood in the streets was sort of repulsive to them. These were your educational dandy types. It kind of reminds me of the crazy liberal vegans that don't eat any meat, and so they got borderline osteoporosis, and they weigh 90 pounds, and those sort of types. I don't know why people are scared of liberals like that, but So they didn't like the blood in the streets movement, so they decided to do it through academia. And so they started the Fabian Socialist Society in England. And so they were made up of philosophy and intellectual types in England. They didn't want to bring about an armed revolution within England. They felt that the only way they could build a communist state in England would be through gradual movement through the ballot box rather than taking up guns and manning the barricades because these people are dandy types. So they formed a group in 1894 called the Fabian Socialist Society. One of the most prominent individuals in the Fabian Socialist Society, and he's a world famous playwright, which you may have heard. It was George Bernard Shaw. Does anybody know that name? You know. Oh, what was he famous for? He said, and he's the founder of the Fabian Socialist Society, he said, and I quote, "I'm basically a Marxist communist," end quote. Now that's pretty overt, right? He's telling you what he is, all right? Now I would say that's being pretty blunt. Now, he wants to implement this through the ballot box, heating the pot up really slow, and he wrote a play which was later called, I can't pronounce the name of it, Plagma or whatever, but everybody knows what it was turned into, and the name of this play was turned into a movie, My Fair Lady.
My Fair Lady.
My Fair Lady. Has anybody seen that movie? Yeah. Did anybody catch the Marxist hint in My Fair Lady? You didn't see it. Y'all all missed it. Now everybody's gonna go home and watch My Fair Lady. Not tonight, tomorrow night. So what happened in My Fair Lady? You took a girl out of the slums and you educated her and turned her into a princess type, right? Well, that's behavioral psychology. The Marxists aren't Christians. They don't really believe in we have a will. So why do we do what we do? Nature and nurture. Right? Well, he is through nature or whatever, educating her in the right way, and so pushing her toward this utopian society, right? And I can get more in depth into that, but the 10 ways that Karl Marx that said you would build a communist state, and this is the 10 pillars. You read the last one, right out of there. I'm gonna read them again. I'm gonna read all of them so you know. Okay. Number 1, abolition of property and land and application of all rents and land and public purposes, to public purposes. So the elimination of private property, basically, right? That's what Mendami wants. He's been talking about that. I'm just glad he's up there, not down here. There's another group that said this in a different way. I think it was Klaus Schwab. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy, right? That's basically the same thing, ain't it? And I got to thinking, I'm not going to be very happy if I don't own anything, right? Oh no, you will be happy, right? Or you'll get to go to this happiness camp and learn to be happy, and you won't leave. They wouldn't do that to us, would they?
Oh, yeah.
They've done it before, hadn't they? No. A heavy progressive or graduated income tax. Now, we teach a course on the Constitution called the Blueprint for Liberty. The Constitution is the solution to the problems. Does anybody know how many things Congress is authorized to do? Enumerated powers. 18. 27 amendments to the Constitution. I think that's what there's 18 enumerated powers given to Congress. They have the power of the purse, right? So only 8 things you can do. And if you eliminated all the other things that the government does that aren't those 18 things, do you know how much we would have reduced the size of government by? Give me a number. Give me a percentage. Half?
70%.
70%? 87%. You want to reduce the size of government, reduce it to just those 18 things they originally said they were supposed to do. Now, people say, oh, well, we hold to the normative principle. We can do whatever we want. We just can't do what was forbidden in it. I said, okay, that's nice, but you can't live life like that. You can't. I signed a contract with a contractor to build an in-law suite onto my house. If I go home tomorrow and I find a Taj Mahal attached to my house, I'm like, what in the world? What did you do? They're like, you didn't tell me I couldn't build it. Oh, by the way, here's your bill. No. We have a work order. I said, you need to build this. Here's the blueprints. It needs to be this size, this way, this right here. Here's your work order. I'm not paying for that. And you can take me to court and the judge ain't gonna make me pay for that because that's not what I authorize you to do. So you can't live your life like that. And so Congress needs to stick to the 18 things that it was few and defined powers. Anything undefined is not a power. And the 10th Amendment covers that too. Whatever we missed is left to the states. Let's keep going real quick. I'm going to do this. Abolition of all right of inheritance. That's pretty given. We have an inheritance tax, do we not? We're close there. Confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. That sounds like what they do in over there in those Muslim countries, right? Yeah. Centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank, state capital, and exclusive monopoly. That's the Fed, ain't it? Oh, wow. Maybe the people that voted that in what was it, 1913? Should have read this. Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. Well, that's what Hitler did. He took over Volkswagen. Oh, and we have, Trump called it fake news. I'm going to call it mainstream propaganda. That's why he wants control over it. He controls the narrative. You keep going. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, and bringing the cultivation of wastelands and the improvement of soil generally in accordance with the common plan. So he wants to take over the soil and means of production. Why? You don't do what I tell you to do, you don't get it. You don't get to eat, you don't get a car, you don't get internet, stuff like that. It's all about control. Equal liability of all labor establishment and industrial armies, especially for agriculture. Here he's laying it out again. Combination of agriculture and manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of population over the country. And then the last one, free education for everybody. So you can educate good little communists. Now, it's very interesting. Did anybody see that interview a couple of years ago between Tucker Carlson and Putin? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you caught that when you watched that interview, but Putin said, basically, you Americans, you're so inefficient. I would eliminate all your state governments. I'd eliminate all your county governments and have one government in Washington. I've spoken like a true communist, right? The centralization of power. But our founding fathers give us a nation to where it's a decentralization of power because they knew that when people with power have a tendency to be corrupt. And so the state governments can stand up to the federal government using the doctrine of the lesser magistrate and nullification and saying, no, that is not within your bounds to do. We're not going to do that. DeSantis did that with mask mandates, right? Colorado did that when they banned marijuana. Now, I'm not advocating for marijuana. I'm just using it as a good example of nullification. The state standing up to the federal government, saying, no, we're not going to do that. And then the county stands up to the state and the Fed as well. That's why your county governments and your sheriff is very important to stand up and say no. Oh, and by the way, did you know that I was just in North Carolina. In North Carolina, there's still dry counties in North Carolina. There was a dry county in Georgia, but last year they just changed it. Spalding County. If we can, and you laugh, if we can make a stand on alcohol, can we not make a stand on voting machines? Oh, how about that idea? You ban them on the local level? Or I like a more subtle way. The thing has to be made in America. And ain't one part of that machine made in America. So this is what we teach. We teach principles. The solution is not one thing. Yes, election integrity is good. Yes, we need to stop abortion. Yes, we need to do this. But it's not just one thing. They want a totalitarian government that owns the totalitarian of people. The totality of life. A draconian government. And so it's everything. And so you've got to change your worldview. It's not just one thing, and that's what we teach, worldview. So here's your three, let's see, here's your three things. Where is it? So Fabian socialism represents a strategic approach to societal transformation and an emphasis of gradual incremental change rather than violent revolution. Unlike overt revolutionary movements that seek immediate upheaval, Fabian socialists aim to reshape society through long-term influence over institutions, policies, frameworks, and cultural norms. This method is considered highly effective because it operates subtly, often without triggering public resistance. The philosophy originated in the late 19th century in England with the Fabian Socialist Society, who symbolize a slow and steady progress. Their emblem is the tortoise, slowly inching toward its goal. And you can look at the last 100 years, that's what we've been doing. I'm going to make a statement. We've had a couple of decent presidents in the last 100 years, but no president has actually decreased the size of government in the last 100 years. Only plateaued or get tax breaks. Even Doge got shot down by the Supreme Court, didn't it? That was an attempt. And the Supreme Court said, no, we're going to keep spending money. Yeah. Maybe they need to get that book back here that y'all had on economics. It's written, it's the most famous, we actually sell that book too. It's the most printed economics book, and he wrote it on the high school level. And so, but Fabian socialists, they prioritize education as a primary tool, believing in shaping the curricula, the teacher training programs. They can influence generations. This approach enabled their ideas to permeate universities, government agencies, and economic policy making bodies, in contrast to Marxism, which seeks to overflow the capitalist system through class struggle. And Fabianism works within the system to gradually replace its foundations. The strategy's effectiveness lies in its ability to adapt and remain under the radar within intellectual and cultural influence to achieve long-term objectives. And we saw that. Kamala Harris, her father taught Keynesian economics in that university. Do y'all know who John Maynard Keynes was? He quoted Stalin all the time. He was a communist. He was a Marxist. And he taught Keynesian economics. And so that's what we need to be able to see these things. So this ideological threat, they include the three factors. There we go, there's the three things. Overt revolutionaries, Fabian socialists, and insiders. So the insiders are the secret groups, and I'm not going to go too far into the secret groups because some people go too far into there. I'm gonna stick with what we know, okay, and not get into theory. I have been labeled a conspiracy theorist, but if you can prove it, it's not a theory, right? And quite frankly, it's not even a conspiracy anymore, because you have Klaus Schwab saying you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. He openly says that, right? You have Bill Gates saying, oh, if we can effectively administer a vaccine, we can reduce the world's population by 15%. All the while, the vaccine that he implemented is sterilizing little girls in Africa. It's not a conspiracy at that point. They're telling you what they're going to do. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That scares you. Oh, you'll eat a lot less meat. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
So, I like cow. I do. I bought a half of one a while back. And their argument is, well, you know, bugs, they have more protein per pound than beef. I said, well, you can have the bug. I ain't John the Baptist. So, so through the democratic process, they want to implement this. So the roots, the historicism. So they're implementing, so H.G. Wells, George Bernard Shaw, they collectively shape the movement's emphasis on, using patience, planning, institutional influence, unlike Marxist movements. How many people knew that H.G. Wells was a Marxist? But see, that's what they do. They influence culture. They influence culture. And that's how they do it, through novels and music and different things like that, to kind of change the culture. Well, if this guy's doing it, he's cool, well, I'm gonna do that. So it's a whole ideology that they influence. Let's see, what else we got here? Oh, so they infiltrated Columbia University and they infiltrated Harvard. Those were two key universities. Do you know why those were two key universities? Because those were the universities that other universities got their professors from. So you influence the teachers and then they go and teach the other people. And you don't see the results up front, but 30 years from now or 20 years from now, when those people that were educated in communism or Marxism grow up, they use that philosophy. It's just been a slow, incremental move. And that's the two universities that they got into. So the other way is economics. I talked about John Maynard Keynes before. So to know more about how they implemented a soft form of implementation of communism, there's been two books that have been written on this. One of them is out of print, and the other one we just printed, called Fabian Freeway by Rose L. Martin, The High Road to Socialism in America, covering the history of that and how they slowly implemented this. And they even got into the churches. This, Christian socialism kind of thing. But Jesus said give to the poor. We need to, implement redistribution of wealth to do that. Well, what they are committing is a categorical fallacy. I love logic. I was a philosophy major, so I love those little things like that. So the fallacy is Jesus told that to individuals. And it's the church's responsibility to take care of the widows and orphans, right? Not the state's. He didn't tell the state, oh, well, you take all these people's money and you redistribute it over here and help the needy. It's the church's responsibility, it's the individuals. So the categorical fallacy is, he said that to individuals, he didn't say that to the state. Right? And then you see all the atrocities that have been being committed through redistribution of wealth. And so that's the other thing. So, this is another educational tool that we use. This is the scorecard. And we printed off these two individuals who happen to be y'all's legislators, right? How many people here like Chuck Payne? Anybody like him? Nobody? Y'all hate him? Well, why'd y'all elect him? Elect him if you don't like him. Nobody voted? Did anybody vote for him? No. How is he your senator? Must be the voting machine, baby. I blame it on the voting machine. Nobody here likes him. Well, right here's what we use to educate people. A lot of people don't know how they vote. Most people don't even know who their legislators are, much less how they vote. But this is how they vote. And I don't care how conservative you talk, I don't care how liberal you talk, how you vote is where the rubber meets the road. Okay. So here we go. Let's look at the first one. Funding increases funding for government-run schools, $300 million to $375 million annually. The cost per household is $94 a year. In vitro fertilization, that's another form of abortion when they pick. I like this bottom. Article 5 convention to call on Congress to change the U.S. Constitution. That's a big one. You can ask Mr. Payne, why do you hate the Constitution? You voted calling Congress to change it. Well, here's the problem. They're not following it to begin with. What's changing it going to do? I mean, so this is some of the different things here, and we are apolitical, by the way. Believe it or not, this is an educational tool based off of the Constitution and based off of American values. Let's look at this other guy, Casey Carpenter. Why don't you take him this? How about this? How about this? Find out where he lives and go spread these within a 2-mile radius of where he lives, all the houses there, and see how he likes that. You think he'd straighten up then?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, does anybody know who Ralph Norman is? Congressman Ralph Norman? He's my congressman in the upstate of South Carolina. So if you look at his voting record, he has originally a 67. That's not good. So what we did is I happened to know one of his generous donors. Okay. Now, when I say generous donor, I mean the guy on the Learjet generous donor. Okay. So I went and I took him a scorecard and I said, look, here's Ralph Norman. Didn't you donate to his campaign? Well, yeah. Put the glasses down. 67. Ain't too good. Not after what I give this guy. He said, Arthur, I'll handle it.
He would do what? Authorize?
He said, I'll handle it. So he called me in when he met with Mr. Norman. When he come back around for election. Because it's every 2 years, right? Right? And I was sitting there as a fly on the wall watching. And I wish I'd have recorded it. Because he said, Mr. Norman, I like some of the stuff you did. How about I give you the same I gave you last time? Well, I was like, yeah, I like that. Only one thing. He gave him his scorecard and he said, I'm going to prorate it to 67% of what I gave you last time because that's what you got. Well, Ralph didn't like that too much. In the last 2 or 3 times, he's got 100. They will change sometimes. You know. I'll tell you one in Georgia, because this is Georgia, and this is a good one, of how effective these can be. And this is we have this available for all of our members, and so this took a lot of money because we do this for every state. Every state. And so it takes time, it takes effort, it takes money. But this is a really good tool. So, was it 2 or 3 years ago, one of your senators, what was his name? Oh, the Reverend Raphael Warnock. Oh, you don't know Raphael Warnock?
Oh,
The Reverend Raphael Warnock? Oh my goodness. You don't know that guy? I don't want to know him, but
Yeah, he's not a reverend.
so at the time he had a 0. I mean a goose egg, okay? I think he has like a 2 now. So I guess the blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. A 2. He moved from 0 to 2. So I print off 100 copies of his voting record. Okay. I found out he was having a town hall at First Baptist Atlanta because they had everybody there. And I go, I walk up, I get there about 15 minutes early. I got a suit on, so people think I'm supposed to be there. And I stand at the entrance and I'm handing these things out to everybody that walks in, you know. And I'm handing it out. You know, oh, here you go, here's something. It's got his picture on it. And so they thought I've worked for it. I don't think my complexion doesn't work for it. But anyway, so I'm handing it out. And I get done, and I sit in the back and I just watch. Most people didn't look at it. But there was a little old lady on a pew right about in the middle way. They took her glasses off of her head and got to look at her. She's looking. And you could, I wish I'd recorded this too. She was looking at it, she goes, And she's looking around like, who did this? Where's that guy at in that suit? I was hidden in the back, so she couldn't find him. But she got to looking at it, and she didn't like the way Warnock was voting, believe it or not. And she was a Democrat. Okay? So this is what she did. She hits the little old lady next to her. Hey, have you seen this? And the little old lady says, no. Picks it up. Oh, and she has her glasses in her purse, so she pulls them out of her purse and sticks them all together. And you can see them talking like, what? What's going on? What? And then she hits the little old lady next to her. Hey, look at this. And she looks at it. And so I got a whole row of little old ladies that don't like the way Warnock's voting for. And I was like, if I want anybody, that was a win right there.
Yeah.
And what was funny is, at the end, everybody, at the end of his speech, he comes down and everybody wants to get their picture taken with the senator, right? And there was, at the end of that little crowd, there was a little crowd of old ladies at the end holding up the scorecards that I'd handed out going, Mr. Warnock, why did you vote this way? This cost my household $10,000. And I didn't say anything good or bad about him. All I did was I was the light that revealed the darkness that was his voting record. And the darkness will not overcome the light. It flees from it. Okay? All I did was tell the truth. And they did not like it. They didn't like the way he was voting. And so this is how powerful these things are. Because people don't know how their elected officials are voting. If they even know who they are. So this is a very powerful tool that we use to equip the people to be able to get active, because that's the power of propaganda, is if you don't know what's going on, there's nothing you can do about it. So that's why we have the magazine to cut through the propaganda so that people can actually know what's going on. And so some of the different things that we use to fight back against communism and the evils that is communism. The other thing I mentioned earlier was our course on the Constitution. Blueprint for Liberty, the Constitution is a solution. Would anybody be willing to do a course? If we did a course up here, would anybody be willing to come to that?
I would.
I've had a lot of, okay, that's good. I've had a lot of people say, I know the Constitution. I've read it. I don't need to go to your course. And I say, listen to this. Let's go through this together. Just be patient. They go through it and they go, oh wow, I thought I knew the Constitution, but I know it now. And so if we could get something together to do that, that would be great. And to equip you with the tools you need so that you can be informed, not only when you go to the ballot box, but tell other people as well about what's going on and what's really there and what's really in the Communist Manifesto as we went through the 10 points. Because a lot of times people are advocating for one of the 10 points of the Communist Manifesto and they don't even know it. I'm not a communist. I'm not a communist. I had one guy, a young guy last year, he was advocating for something, and I said, well, that's one of the points of communism, one of the 10 pillars of communism. I handed it to him, and he looked through and read the 10 pillars, and he goes, I like a bunch of these, but I'm not a communist. I mean, if the shoe fits, if it walks like a duck. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people that are socialists, that are in fact communists, full-blown communists, and they don't even know it. But when you show them what it is, that's what it is. And the course on the Constitution is the box top of how this puzzle is, our government, how it should be put back together. And if you don't have the box top to the puzzle, you don't know how it should be put back together. Oh, and by the way, on the other side of the table, there's some other people trying to put this government back together. And they're not looking at the Constitution. The box top they're looking at has a hammer and a sickle. And it's here. It's being taught in all the universities. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Mr. Hampton. All right, I know we're a little bit past, but I do want y'all to give a few minutes to Mr. Hall and Mr. Brown. Mr. Hall, do you want to take a few minutes and come up first? Sure. Okay, and thank y'all for y'all's patience, but I'm excited to hear from
Most
Mr.
economics
Thank you.
teachers, like I am, just from the nature of it, are very conservative. It's hard to teach
Good evening.
economics and not be very conservative.
So happy to be here for y'all this evening. I appreciate you having me. Over the years, I visited with you several times as we fought to get Republicans elected, get out the vote, and all the other battles we fought in the mighty 14th. And this, my county is not part of the 14th, but we're gonna fix that sooner or later. I'd be remiss if I failed to mention the man who helped guide me years ago as I started the journey on the political road. And just for what a difference we could make. He's gone on now, but his spirit still felt in this district. I'm speaking of Ed Painter.
Who?
Ed Painter. I started this journey officially several months ago. I started making more frequent visits here and over to Murray County, which is the other leg of this triad that makes up our district. I've outlined my history and my qualifications. Tonight, though, I want to talk about the battle that's to be fought and why I'm the candidate to represent our district in Atlanta. I won't sling mud and I won't speculate, but I'll lay out a sound argument for change and submit I'm the candidate that can implement that change. I'm going to put before you first, as Exhibit A, the censor that this body brought before the entire district, where it was voted on and passed. You listed several examples of bills supported by and voted on by our senator that not only go against our district, but go against the very principles of our party. In addition to the various bills listed in your censure, there's others. There was Senate Bill 144. Senate Bill 144 protects companies from damages that consumers could bring against them as long as they put a warning on a label. I don't know if y'all have ever tried to read a warning label on a pesticide, but it's like a book. That favored the companies. You're going to see a pattern here. Senate Bill 208. New guidelines for personal injury lawsuits, again, favoring big companies. This is one that we got saved from. House Bill 1192, it passed. But thankfully, Governor Kemp vetoed it. And what House Bill 1192 did, it was in relation to data centers. We don't know a lot about data centers. And that's a scary thing. But it took away local jurisdictions' right to govern them and to even say where they went. It provided tax breaks, and it empowered a 14-man commission appointed by the state to come in and have sole authority over these data centers and their location and their operation. Again, taking away our local control. They tried this session to put a bill to deal with data centers in, and it was a good bill. So they got it in committee, and Big Power's henchmen or lobbyists, if you want to call them that, got a hold of it, and they took all the teeth out of it, and they sent it to the floor for a vote. Well, on the floor, there were enough good senators put them teeth back in it. Scared Big Power, they got their guys to pull it off the floor before they could be a vote, and that sounds like it's a win. But the thing is, in relation to data centers, if there is no legislation, the PSC is the governing body. And we know how that's going to go. We'll just have to see how that works out. They may get it back with the teeth in it, but I'm afraid to throw them in the briar patch. House Bill 514, it limits the government's control of issuing building or stopping any kind of development at the most for 6 months. Why does the state need to tell our local county commissioners and our local cities how long they can stop something from being built? If we want to stop it forever, it should be our right. Senate Bill 145, this is a little whimsical, but this tells you how far he'll go. He's voted for all this. It prohibits local governments from regulating leaf blowers. That's not a biggie, but why does the state need to regulate leaf blowers? And our senator voted for it. And then this session, as McCray pointed out at the beginning, and this isn't a whimsical bill. He was one of the sponsors of Senate Bill 577. Another attempt to protect big business from local citizens and take away local citizens' power to regulate what goes on in our communities. There are many more examples, but the pattern's clear. Our senator consistently votes against the people in this district and against the local governments in favor of big business in Atlanta. It's time for a change. I'm going to share a personal reason I decided to challenge him. In 16 years of service on 2 different school boards, I've never had our senator come and sit down and see how he could help us. I've talked to members of other governmental bodies, and he may have done it, but I haven't found anybody yet that can say he's sat down and talked to a city council, a county commission, and went over ways that he could help the citizens in legislation in Atlanta. I'll say he does like to attend photo ops and chamber events. At a recent event in Gordon County, when asked by a citizen what was the best way to get help on legislation for a citizen, his reply to that citizen was, hire a lobbyist. And I'm telling you, that's what he said, hire a lobbyist. I'm just no boy from Resaca, but I thought my elected representative was my lobbyist. On another note, when asked by a constituent from Murray County when he was going to show up and help them fight the biowaste facility, and as many people in this room was there, that's a regional fight. That's not just for Murray County. But when he was asked when he was going to show up to help them fight that, and I'm going to quote you exactly what he wrote, put it in writing. As I've told you numerous of times, that's a county issue. It's to be decided by Murray County residents and the Murray County Commission, which I am neither. You know, the people of Murray County or the people of Whitfield County, whoever vote for me, I'm one of them. And I'm going to be there to fight for them. But I just think that one statement from him tells us where we stand. And when we need our senator, especially if it means going against the state, it tells us where he stands. The next question is, why me? Why Eddie Hall? I'm going to give you a few reasons, and I hope it'll help you decide I'm the person for the job. I've spent 16 years as an elected official. I've helped build 2 different school systems. I've worked with budgets. I know how budgets work. I know what effect the state mandates have as they send them down from Atlanta on local governments. You local governments, and I know we like to beat them up, and I do too, and I've been on the getting the beat up side and the beaten up side. But they don't have a lot of control of what gets done. The guys in Atlanta tell them how they've got to spend our money, and they tell them how much of it they got to spend, and it's not right. But I've, like the other gentleman was up here earlier, I've helped lower the millage rate on my taxpayers. That's really the only thing you can do to fight the assessments. And those assessments, make no mistake, they're coming out of Atlanta. If your local tax assessors send an assessment down to the Georgia Department of Revenue and it's not high enough, they're going to send it back and say you either raise it or you don't get to collect taxes. And it happens. But the bottom line is, I know the math on property taxes, and I know how we can, to me, the best way is to get rid of them. But and that's what I'm going to fight for if we get down there. That's one of the planks of my platform. But I'll bring knowledge and ability to the table on day one. I referenced working with the party for many years. That will benefit me. The lieutenant governor presides over the Senate. I have a great relationship with all the front runners in that race. Got my favorite, but I'll let him do his own campaigning, but I get along with the top 3 or 4 guys. And I think that'll result in a good committee assignment, which will result in a good person in place to help our community. I've spent a career in business. I've owned businesses, I've worked for big businesses, I've helped build businesses. I've negotiated contracts for millions of dollars. And it's a bargain. And let's face it, to be effective, we can talk about the guys on the other side of the aisle all we want to, but we've got to find some middle ground to make progress and get things done that we want done. The key is knowing how to get the bigger half, and I'm versed at doing that. What do I want to do for our district in particular? As I said, I want to get real property tax relief. I want to work to better our education system and get real results for our dollars. As the other lady said, we spend a lot of money and I don't know if we're getting our dollars worth. And I've sat there and watched it firsthand. I want to expand both vocational education, and I want to train our students to exit high school with the certifications they need to hit the workforce and make a living wage. We can do that. The state allows us to do that now, we just don't take advantage of it. I want to find ways, in addition to property tax reform, that will make homes affordable to younger home buyers. The average age of a new home buyer has risen to over age 40. That's unacceptable. We've got to solve this, or none of our children will be able to live here. I don't want them to live with me. I don't know about y'all. Yeah. I'm ready. I'll be glad if Patty moves out one day. But most of all, I want to serve you. I want to host town hall meetings on a regular basis. I want to have an advisory council made up of frontline teachers, not just administrators, frontline teachers, and include homeschool parents as well, because that's a big thing now, and we've got to involve them, and because we're taking their tax money too. But I want to have an advisory council made up of that group to help me know what's needed in Atlanta. If we depend on just my knowledge, although I may think I know a lot, there's always something I can learn. I want to meet quarterly with all the elected bodies in the district and find out their needs. I want to find out how, at the state level, I can help them and through them help you. And one of the things that made Ronald Reagan one of the best leaders we ever had was he wasn't afraid to ask for help, and he wasn't afraid to ask for advice. I'm going to ask everybody that lives in this district to be a part of it. Freedom's not free and government's not either. It's easy to sit back and holler for change and complain, but I'm going to ask you to get in here and be a part of it. Come to the town hall meetings, come tell me what needs to be done. My plan's not for the lazy. You're going to have to participate. And to be effective, government requires participation. And I'm going to give you that avenue. We've been content to be pushed to the sidelines too long. We let government just move us out of the way, and as we witness in Atlanta, somebody referenced, one of the speakers referenced the voting machines. That's a big issue that we all want to change. Do you think it's going to be changed? No. They're going to stick with them. It's what they've got. And knowing they're wrong. They haven't even been upgraded. There's software upgrades for them things they haven't even thought, because they're not what they want. But I'm going to close with one simple request. I'm going to ask you to vote for Eddie. Ask a friend, ask a neighbor, and ask relatives to vote for Eddie. And together, we can keep this the best community in Georgia, and we'll make it even better. Thank you so much.
And to close, if you will, Mr. Brown, come up and tell us about your campaign.
Hi everybody, I'm Marty Brown. Most of y'all probably seen me here, there, and yonder in some of these other forums. I was in the congressional race for a little while and decided to back out and get involved and at the state level a little more, down where something I could deal with. Because a lot of the issues that I was real passionate about are really state and local level issues. The federal government, you get up there, it's a lot of bureaucracy and it's a lot of stuff, and it's very, very hard for one person to affect change, even though you vote on things like everybody else. But up there, it's just so much different than for you to go up and vote in Washington on something that's going to come back to Dalton, Gordon County, Calhoun, Murray, wherever you live, and affect life here is very hard. At the state level, we can do that. In case you don't know me, I'm a retired firefighter paramedic. I've lived in Whitfield County since 1984. I started off as a volunteer firefighter in Whitfield County back in 1990, and I was working another full-time job. I worked 15 years as a volunteer before I ever went full-time in the fire service and got my paramedic. So I spent the last 20 years down at the city of Smyrna as a lieutenant, leading bright young men and teaching them how to respond to emergencies, teaching them how to grow up, teaching them how to change wiper blades on their freaking cars because they didn't know. I had planned on talking about education tonight when I got here, and then we've had all the educators and the board members up here talking. I'm like, yeah, we need to change that. Good thing I'm used to working in emergency services because I can think on my feet. I can change like that. I just got to play it in my head and go, all right, let's talk about something different. So I'm going to leave education alone. Everybody in here, we know our education system's broken. We've got good teachers, you got bad teachers, you got good schools, you got bad schools. I'm not going to preach to the choir because y'all know a whole lot more about it than I did. I graduated from Northwest back in 1990, and the biggest thing I did was play football and hang out in the vocational department, which schools don't have anymore. But I'm getting on a tangent. But anyway, so let's talk about taxes and money. A lot of people want to stand up here and talk or campaign and go, well, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to cut this tax, we're going to get rid of sales tax, we're going to get rid of property tax. So, okay, how are you going to replace all these funds that are already being spent? Because everybody that's done anything with a budget know when you do a budget, if your budget from last year got approved and you want more, but you got, say, $10,000 left out of a $100,000 budget, just for round numbers, you can't go back and ask for $120 next year. They're going to say, well, you had $10,000 left. You don't need you don't need $20,000 more. And they're going to shoot you down. So what does everybody do? They go out there and they spend 100% of their budget and run out of money. They're like, hey, we need more money. It don't matter if it's the police chief or the fire chief going out and buying new suits and fancy clothes to go out and look pretty sitting behind his desk, instead of spending it on the officers and the firefighters and the patrol cars and the fire trucks that we need fixed, that's running around here. You know, there's so much stuff like that. You got a lot of waste in money. That's the first thing we got to do. And what was the big thing with those? Everybody was looking at, where's all this money going? Where's all the waste coming from? And they started looking into all these different programs and found out where billions and billions of dollars were going. Has anybody done that at the state level?
No.
You never hear anything about it at the state level. They keep it quiet. They keep bringing their money in. They even get money from the federal government. Does the federal government watch what the state does with that money? No. What does the state do when they issue money to the counties? If they give, we'll use Whitfield County because we're in Whitfield County right now. If they give Whitfield County $300,000 for emergency services to upgrade their emergency services, who knows what they do with that money? Does anybody oversee that money or watch where that money goes? I can tell you where a lot of it goes that most people in this room probably have no idea. It goes to indigent care at Hampton Medical Center. Free health care to people because 85% of 911 calls that are run by an emergency, by an ambulance, which the ambulance is privately owned, it's owned by Hampton Medical Center. The county subsidizes it because they can't collect, because unless it's a car wreck where people have car insurance that actually pays for the bill, or you get lucky and it's somebody that has health insurance, those bills never get paid. And they sit there and it costs a lot of money to run an ambulance service. I mean, you're talking $180,000, $190,000 vehicle. You got 2 full-time EMTs, paramedics on there paying salaries, paying insurance. You've got another several $100,000 worth of equipment on that ambulance. You're running it, and that's privately owned. If they're not collecting 80% of their bills, how do they stay in business? Because Whitfield County writes them a check every year to pay for all that and cover all that indigent health care. And what do we do when we get all these illegals that we had come into Dalton and got flooded with illegal immigrants? It got overloaded. There's no money to pay for this. I worked part-time for Hampton EMS as a paramedic for 12 years while I was working for the fire department. I picked up hundreds of people that had no insurance. Regular people I went to high school with were some of them. Not all of them are illegals. They're, people that live off the system and they go, I don't have any insurance. I'm not going to pay this bill. It's like, well, okay, you got a stomach ache. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. There's 4 cars in the driveway, 3 other adults in the house. Why did you call an ambulance for a bill that's going to cost $6,000 to go ride to the ER when you could have called a freaking taxi or got somebody else out of the bed to take you down there? Well, I don't have to pay for it. I ain't going to pay for it no way. We're paying for it. It's all that fraud and abuse of the system we've got to get back and get rid of that, and get rid of the mentality that, oh, the government's gonna take care of it. It's not just the federal government. It starts at the local level. The local level here, they divvy out who gets the food stamps. They divvy out who gets the housing assistance. They divvy out all these funding that comes from the federal government and comes down from the state, it gets to the county, and there's somebody sitting behind a desk down here in the county that says, oh, here, you get this, you get this, you get this. We gotta stop that. We gotta get control of that. And if we can do that, that'll help get rid of the spending, and we can actually use our taxpayer dollars for stuff that we need it for. And another thing that is a big waste that just didn't make it through crossover down at the state capitol was the income tax and property tax cuts. There was one going through the state senate, and there was a bill going through the house. One was wanting to do the income tax, the other one was wanting to do property taxes. Well, how in the world can you say, how can they get rid of income taxes? Well, Tennessee's done it. Alabama's about to do it. Tennessee hadn't had them for years. You know what? Brian Kemp's, I voted for him. I'll admit it, voted for him every time. His big thing, number one thing, is Georgia's number one for business. Bringing all these businesses to Georgia. You know how he's doing it? Tax incentives. They're coming into Georgia. They're not paying taxes on their properties. Anything that they buy to build their buildings, they're not paying taxes on it. Equipment, these data centers that everybody's talking about, they don't pay taxes on them computer parts. They come in here, they get the land tax free, they get their computer equipment tax free. The computer equipment has to be replaced every 3 to 5 years. You think they pay taxes on it when they replace it? No. State gives them a free ride. That's millions and millions of dollars. As Eddie stated a while ago, you know, one of the guys running up for lieutenant governor was one of the champions of this bill. And I mean, it's Blake Hillary. I know him, Eddie knows him. I don't care to mention his name, he's a good guy. But I talked with him in depth about the plan on that with eliminating the taxes and how all this came about. And it blows your mind when you see the facts of it. But I'll back off and leave it at that. You know, as like I said, I started off in the congressional race, back down to the House race after I talked to a lot of different people about it and thought about it for a while. And even before I announced, I called Eddie because I'd met him at one of these meetings, and I was like, hey, Eddie, I'm going to let you know, bud, this is what's fixing to happen. Nothing personal, it's nothing against you, but we got to get this guy out of office. One of us has got to knock him out. And between the two of us, one of us should be able to do it. You know, if it goes to a runoff, we'll get behind each other and make it happen, whatever we got to do. But we got to get somebody that can vote for people. So I'm sure y'all be seeing me around. I got a website, Brown for GA, or Marty Brown for Georgia on Facebook. So y'all look me up. All my contact info is on these flyers I got out. My cell phone number and email are on there. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a holler. Thanks.
Oh, and may God bless all of you for staying with us, hanging with us tonight. You know we rarely ever go over, and I can't go over. So I want all of us to enjoy our fellowship with one another, because we have some refreshments on the table that Liz and Z's were kind enough to bring to us. They wanted to show their appreciation for what the Whitfield County Republican Party had done for them. Liz, would you and Z's just stand up so that we can honor you and let you know how much we appreciate you. As he said, he's not a politician, but he's willing to learn. So if you'll hang with us, we'll hang with you, and we'll do lots of wonderful things together.
Thank you.
And I thank you for sharing tonight. I thank you for sharing your life and your love with Whitfield County.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
We're lucky.